What if I told you that one of the most attractive features on your face isn't just about beauty, but about survival? Take a moment and look at your face. Right now, focus on the area just below your eyes. Do your cheekbones stand out? If they do, there's a chance you're carrying a genetic signature that has survived for thousands of years. A signature that began long before cities, long before kingdoms, long before written history. Scientists believe that every human face is like a map of the past. Every curve, every angle, and every bone carries clues about where our ancestors lived, the challenges they faced, and how they survived one of the harshest periods in human history. Among all those features, high cheekbones remain one of the greatest mysteries. Today, they're celebrated as a symbol of beauty. Fashion models are admired for them. Most stars are recognized because of them. Artists have painted them for centuries. But evolution doesn't care about beauty. Evolution only rewards survival. Which raises a fascinating question. Why did high cheekbones survive for thousands of generations? Were they simply inherited by chance? Or did they help our ancestors stay alive? The answer is far more incredible than most people imagine, because hidden inside your DNA is a story that stretches back nearly 100,000 years. A story of frozen landscapes, dangerous migrations, powerful ancient tribes, and a journey that changed the human face forever. Before we uncover that mystery, there's something you need to understand. Most people think they inherit their appearance only from their parents. That's true, but it's only a tiny part of the story. Your parents inherited their facial structure from their parents. Your grandparents inherited theirs from another generation. If you keep following that chain backward, you eventually reach thousands of ancestors you've never met. Every single generation passed tiny pieces of DNA to the next. Over thousands of years, those tiny genetic instructions slowly shape the face you see in the mirror today. That means your cheekbones aren't just yours. They're the result of countless generations of human history. Every ancestor who survived long enough to have children added another chapter to the story written inside your genes. This is exactly why anthropologists spend so much time studying ancient skulls. Unlike clothing, unlike language, unlike culture, bones don't lie. Even after thousands of years buried beneath the earth, a human skull can reveal astonishing details about the person who once lived. Researchers can estimate age, diet, health, physical activity, sometimes even the region where that individual spent most of their life. One of the first areas scientists examine is the cheekbone. Known scientifically as the zygomatic bone, it forms the structure beneath the eyes and extends toward the sides of the face. It supports important muscles used for speaking, chewing, smiling, and expressing emotion. But it also helps define one of the most recognizable features of the human face. People with high cheekbones have zygomatic bones positioned slightly higher and projecting farther outward. This creates stronger facial definition, deeper natural shadows, and a more sculpted appearance. Today, photographers love this effect because light naturally enhances facial symmetry. But thousands of years ago, there were no cameras, there were no beauty standards, only survival. Everything about the human body evolved because it solved a problem. Your lungs evolved to breathe efficiently. Your hands evolved to grip tools. Your eyes evolved to detect movement. Your bones evolved to protect your body while allowing movement. The face is no different. Every bone has a purpose. Which means if high cheekbones became common in certain populations, there was probably a reason. To understand that reason, we need to travel back to one of the coldest periods in human history. Around 20,000 years ago, much of the northern hemisphere was covered in enormous glaciers. Massive sheets of ice stretched across continents. Temperatures were dramatically lower than they are today. Entire landscapes looked completely different. Food was scarce. Winter lasted longer. Survival depended on intelligence, cooperation, and physical adaptation. Humans living in these environments faced challenges that people today can barely imagine. They hunted massive animals across frozen plains. They walked hundreds of miles searching for food. Every calorie mattered. Every decision mattered. And slowly, generation after generation, their bodies began adapting to those harsh conditions. Scientists believe that climate influenced many parts of the human body. The nose changed shape in different regions. Big proportions changed depending on temperature. Skin pigmentation adapted to sunlight. And the bones of the face also responded to environmental pressures over thousands of years. Researchers studying ancient skeletons noticed that some populations consistently developed broader faces with more prominent cheekbones. These patterns appeared repeatedly in regions with extremely cold climates. Although scientists continue to debate the exact reasons, many believe these facial structures provided mechanical advantages for chewing tougher foods and supporting powerful facial muscles. Others suggest broader facial bones may have helped distribute stress across the skull more efficiently during heavy biting. Whatever the exact explanation, one thing became clear. These features weren't random. They appeared repeatedly across generations because the genes responsible continued being passed from parents to children. That brings us to one of the biggest discoveries in modern genetics. For centuries, scientists could only compare skulls and make educated guesses. Today, they can study DNA itself. And what they've discovered is extraordinary. There isn't one single gene responsible for high cheekbones. Instead, facial structure is controlled by hundreds, perhaps even thousands, of genetic variations working together like pieces of an enormous puzzle. Some genes regulate bone growth before birth. Others influence how the skull develops during childhood. Some affect muscle attachment. Others control the timing of facial development during puberty. Every tiny instruction contributes a small piece to the final shape of your face. That's why no two people look exactly alike. Even brothers and sisters often have dramatically different facial structures despite growing up in the same family. Each child inherits a completely unique combination of DNA. It's like shuffling a deck of cards. The same cards exist, but the order is always different. And that unique combination determines everything from your jawline to the position of your cheekbones. As scientists expanded their genetic research, another fascinating pattern began to emerge. High cheekbones appeared far more frequently in certain parts of the world than in others. This wasn't coincidence. It was evidence of ancient human migration. And that discovery would eventually lead researchers to uncover one of the greatest journeys in human history. For decades, archaeologists believed they already understood how humans spread across the world. Then DNA changed everything. Scientists began extracting genetic material from ancient human bones that had been buried for thousands of years. These weren't myths or legends anymore. They were real people whose DNA had been preserved by time. What researchers found completely reshaped our understanding of human history. Modern humans did not remain in one place. They moved, again and again. They crossed deserts that seemed impossible to survive. They climbed mountain ranges where oxygen was dangerously thin. They followed rivers into unknown lands. They endured freezing winters and scorching summers, always searching for food, water, and safety. Each migration forced the human body to adapt, not overnight, not within a single lifetime, but over hundreds of generations. Every child inherited small genetic variations from their parents. Some of those variations made almost no difference. Others increased the chances of survival, even if only by a tiny amount. Over thousands of years, those tiny advantages accumulated. That is how evolution works. Not through sudden transformation, but through countless small changes repeated across generations. One of those changes involved the human face. Researchers noticed that populations sharing common ancestry often shared remarkably similar facial structures. Among many East Asian populations, high cheekbones appeared frequently. The same pattern could also be observed among numerous Native American communities. This wasn't a coincidence. Genetic evidence suggests that the ancestors of Native Americans migrated from northeastern Asia into North America more than 15,000 years ago, crossing a land bridge that once connected the two continents during the last ice age. As these ancient groups spread southward across the Americas, they carried their DNA with them, along with language and survival skills. They also carried inherited facial features. Thousands of years later, many of those characteristics can still be recognized today. It's one of the most fascinating examples of how ancient history can remain visible in the human face. But migration is only one piece of the puzzle. Another piece lies hidden inside the incredible complexity of your DNA. Every cell in your body contains roughly 3 billion genetic letters. Within those billions of instructions are thousands of genes involved in building your face before you're even born. During early development inside the womb, specialized cells begin constructing your skull with astonishing precision. They know where each bone should grow, how large it should become when it should stop growing, and how it should connect with neighboring bones. The zygomatic bones, which create your cheekbones, begin forming during these early stages. As the fetus develops, dozens of genes communicate constantly, sending chemical signals that guide bone growth. It's like watching millions of construction workers following the same architectural blueprint. If even a small number of those genetic instructions change, the final shape of the face changes as well. That's why every human face is unique. Even identical twins who share nearly the same DNA often develop subtle differences over time. Environment, nutrition, hormones, and normal developmental variation all influence the final result. Your face is the product of both genetics and life itself. Scientists have also discovered something surprising. Many of the genes involved in facial development influence more than one part of the body. A single genetic variation might affect bone growth, muscle formation, and even certain aspects of skin development. This phenomenon is known as pleiotropy. In simple terms, one gene can perform multiple jobs. That's one reason facial genetics remains one of the most challenging fields in modern biology. Researchers still don't fully understand how every gene interacts with the others. Every year, new discoveries reveal additional pieces of the puzzle. And every discovery brings us closer to understanding why human faces became so incredibly diverse. Perhaps the fascinating realization is this: your face is not simply the result of your parents. It's the result of thousands of generations making it through famine, disease, war, climate change, and countless other challenges. Every ancestor who survived long enough to have children passed another piece of that story into your DNA. Your cheekbones may seem ordinary, but they represent one small chapter in one of the longest stories ever written, a story that began tens of thousands of years before your birth, and scientists are only beginning to uncover its deepest secrets. So, if high cheekbones became so common in certain populations, the next question is obvious. Did they actually provide an advantage? Or are they simply a fascinating coincidence preserved by thousands of years of human evolution? Scientists have debated this question for decades. While there is no single answer that explains every population on Earth, several theories have gained significant support. One theory focuses on strength. Your cheekbones aren't just decorative bones sitting beneath your eyes. They help support the muscles responsible for chewing, speaking, and making facial expressions. For ancient humans, chewing wasn't as easy as opening a bag of processed food. Their diets included dried meat, roots, nuts, wild plants, and foods that required tremendous bite force. Powerful facial muscles needed strong attachment points. A well-developed facial structure could better distribute those forces across the skull. Over thousands of generations, even a slight mechanical advantage may have helped certain populations survive difficult environments. Another theory involves protection. The cheekbones help shield one of the most delicate parts of the human body, the eyes. The zygomatic bone forms part of the eye socket, creating a protective frame around the eyeball. during hunting, physical conflict, or accidental injuries. Stronger facial bones may have reduced the risk of severe damage. Although modern medicine rarely thinks about survival this way, life in prehistoric times was very different. Even a small injury could become life-threatening. Every structural advantage mattered. Then there's another fascinating possibility. Climate. Humans evolved in dramatically different environments. Some groups lived near the equator under intense sunlight. Others survived freezing temperatures for thousands of years. Cold climates placed enormous stress on the human body. Researchers believe that broader facial structures may have helped maintain structural stability while supporting muscles used to generate heat through constant chewing and physical activity. Although scientists continue studying these ideas, one thing remains clear: the human face changed alongside the environments in which our ancestors lived. But evolution isn't the only reason people notice high cheekbones today. Culture also transformed their meaning. Thousands of years ago, survival determined which traits were passed forward. Today, beauty standards influence how we perceive them. Interestingly, high cheekbones have been admired in completely different civilizations that had little or no contact with one another. Ancient sculptures often emphasized prominent facial bones. Classical paintings highlighted facial definition using light and shadow. Modern fashion photography continues the same tradition. Why? Psychologists believe the answer may lie in facial symmetry and bone structure. Humans naturally notice faces that appear balanced and well-defined. High cheekbones create shadows that make the face appear more sculpted. This increases contrast around the eyes, one of the first places our brains focus when recognizing another person. In other words, the same facial feature that once evolved through natural selection eventually became associated with attractiveness. But beauty itself changes over time. In different centuries, different cultures admired different facial features, yet high cheekbones repeatedly appear across history as a sign of strength, health, and elegance. That consistency has fascinated researchers for years. However, there's another myth that deserves attention. Many people believe high cheekbones automatically reveal someone's ethnicity. That's not true. While some populations show the feature more frequently than others, no single facial characteristic can accurately determine ancestry. Human genetics is far too complex. Over thousands of years, populations mixed through migration, trade, exploration, and marriage. Today, someone with high cheekbones could have ancestry from every different parts of the world. Your face is influenced by countless generations, not one single origin. This is exactly why DNA testing has become so valuable. Rather than relying only on appearance, scientists can examine genetic markers passed through generations. Sometimes those results confirm family traditions. Other times they reveal completely unexpected ancestral connections. Many people discover relatives from regions they never imagined. Others learn that their family history is far more diverse than they believed. Your face may provide clues, but your DNA tells the deeper story. Modern genetic research continues uncovering remarkable discoveries about facial development. Using advanced imaging technology and genome analysis, researchers can now compare thousands of faces while studying millions of genetic variations. Artificial intelligence has even begun helping scientists identify patterns that were impossible to detect just a decade ago. Every year, researchers discover new genes involved in facial growth. Some influence the width of the face. Others affect jaw development. Some regulate eyebrow position. Others contribute to nose shape or cheekbone projection. Each discovery reminds us how incredibly complex the human body truly is. Perhaps one day, scientists will understand every genetic instruction responsible for building a human face, but that day hasn't arrived yet. Even with today's technology, your face remains one of biology's greatest puzzles. And maybe that's what makes it so fascinating. Every time you look in the mirror, you're seeing far more than your own reflection. You're looking at millions of years of evolution. You're seeing the survival of countless ancestors. You're seeing the result of migrations across frozen landscapes, dangerous mountains, endless forests, and unknown continents. Every generation left a tiny mark. Every survivor passed another piece of the puzzle forward, and eventually, that story became your face. So, if you have high cheekbones, they're not proof that you belong to one specific civilization. They're not evidence of a single ancient tribe. And they're certainly not just a symbol of beauty. Instead, they're a reminder that your DNA carries echoes of one of the greatest journeys in human history, a journey that began long before maps, long before borders, long before history books. A journey written not in ink, but inside every cell of your body. The next time someone compliments your cheekbones, remember, they may be admiring something that took thousands of generations to create. Something carefully shaped by evolution, preserved by genetics, and carried through time by every ancestor who came before you. And perhaps the most incredible part of all, your face isn't just showing who you are. It's quietly revealing where the story of humanity has been, because sometimes the greatest secrets of history aren't hidden beneath the earth. They're hiding in the mirror.